All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about this Disney actress, this Black Panther 2 actress, who says that it's very important that her character is gay. And I want to talk about it in conjunction with this article from Ryan Johnson talking about the importance of a character in the Knives Out sequel being gay. But it says, while promoting the Disney upcoming Marvel film Black Panther Wakanda Forever, screenwriter and actress Michelle Coel, I believe it's pronounced Cole, tells Vogue that she joined the cast because my character is queer and she believes that it's essential to step in and convey an LGBTQ tale, which she hopes the anti-gay nation of Ghana will see.
It's interesting because she was born and raised in the UK, has no cultural connection to Ghana, and doesn't understand the sensibilities of people who have lived there their entire lives, and wants to preach to them about their legislation and their culture and their social values using a Marvel movie, which is probably not even going to be legally allowed to show in their theaters.
So one of my friends actually is the only trans person from Ghana. I mean, there's multiple, I'm sure, but like she literally escaped Ghana and got to America.
Oh, wow.
And from what I've heard from her, the entire like political system there is basically like based on gay. It's like their biggest issue over there. It's like you're either an anti or a pro-gay politician. That's like their version of shit. So like it's really intense over there. So I doubt she's gonna affect anything.
Yeah. So there's this anti-LGBT legislation that might be passed there, which would make it a second-degree felony punishable by 5 years in prison to identify as gay or to identify as an ally to the LGBT cause or community.
See, that's insane.
And what Michelle Cole said about that is people say, oh, it's fine, it's just politics. But I don't think it is just politics when it affects how people get to live their daily lives. That's why I felt it important for me to step in and do that role, because I know just by my being Ghanaian, Ghanaians will come. I don't know if they're going to show this film in Ghana.
Also, it will likely get accused of queer baiting because likely, as we know with most Marvel things, that it will be touched upon but not heavily investigated or talked about because they don't have the time. The movie's 2.5 hours long. You've got to tell your story of this, which always ends in a space beam, and you don't have the time to make it into this character retrospective about some side character that's not Shuri, that's not any of the other main characters. It's going to be minuscule in its importance, and that's not going to affect change. I have asked that question here before. I said, how much of this is actually, because we read articles all day, every day from celebrities who are bragging about how they're doing this stuff so that they can make change in the world. And I said, how much change is it actually making other than to your ego? Right.
Well, I have a question about this. So was the character actually written to be gay, or is she kind of going in herself? Okay.
No, she's written to be gay and in a relationship with another like female warrior.
And they said that that's what drew her to the character.
She refers to herself as queer, the quote, but then the article says that she's gay, and I believe gay and queer are not the same thing. That's why it's LGBTQ. The G and the Q mean gay and queer. Come on, guys, get it together. Who's
queer
doing
being
this?
an ideology, right?
Queer doesn't mean gay. Queer means like you're into...
Queer means you're like lived out.
Yeah,
basically.
I think it just these comments she's made just show how tone deaf she is to the culture she's trying to preach to, because she has not grown up there. She likely has not returned there because she's gay and could be in trouble there legally for being gay. It's like, if you're even tuned into this cultural conversation, you would know that a lot of Marvel movies have been banned in like Saudi Arabia and different African countries and China. Like, they have strict decency laws about what they show there.
And Marvel's been pretty open about how they're fine with that now. They're looking at that as like that's a net
it's an
loss
opportunity for Western PR to be banned in Saudi Arabia or China or different like African nations.
Is this a product of the internet age where it's like, if this was 20 years ago and she was raised in England, right? She was raised in England. She would feel more of a connection to the country she was actually born into and raised in rather than to a place where she didn't spend as much time, if any. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, she feels that connection now because she can connect through it digitally. But if she didn't actually grow up there, there's a sense of connection there that maybe she feels because of the internet.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Because it's easy to claim, Ghana or being proud from being from Ghana when it's like your only interaction, like you said, is through the internet or pictures or whatever. But it's like, sounds like a shithole place.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to even be from there and like rep that?
Like I'm Polish and Croatian, and I don't really feel any particular pull to, because I was born in the United States. I was raised in the United States. And maybe that's different here because we don't have like America doesn't have like a designated race or, you know what I'm saying? Like when people talk about America, they don't talk about, it's not homogenous, right?
Yeah.
So people, thank you. So that connection is different. For her, maybe she feels that connection in a way that I wouldn't be able to feel.
I somehow doubt that because I think it's her ethnicity that comes first. What comes second is her identity as a social activist. And then what comes third is her identity as an actress. And really, her identity as an actress, a performer, should come first in the context of why she took this role.
That's what
she
bothers
took
us
this
the
role. She says she was completely sold on it just because she thought she could make a social impact in this country that she is descended from. That's a bad reason to take a role.
I also don't know if I buy it. Like, I don't know if you're like if you're an actress.
Yeah, that sounds like it was crafted after the fact, right?
If you're an actress who's coming up and you get offered a role in a multi-billion-dollar franchise, I don't buy that. Like the number one, you were like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, the character's gay. Sure, now I'll take it. No, I think that they were going to take that role either way.
Of course.
Like, likely it will be written out it will be hit the cutting room floor. Whatever connection there is to the character's sexuality will end up on the cutting room floor because there just isn't enough time to actually cover it in general. And I want to go back to what you said about them being activists and
because all of these middling actors and actresses think that a social agenda is their launch pad to get more notoriety.
Yeah.
And it's not working.
So it says Knives Out director Rian Johnson confirms Glass Onion lead character is queer. Glass Onion director Rian Johnson confirmed at a press conference that Benoit Blanc is queer. In a particular scene in the Knives Out sequel, it appears Blanc has a male lover. I want to know why that's nobody's going to see as we learned from. Thank you. Now you might want to get just put your phone away. Nobody went to see Bros. Because of the characters being gay. You still have time. It hasn't happened yet.
Okay. I thought it was over.
No.
No, it's okay.
So,
do you want to review this when it comes out?
Perhaps
by
so.
the way,
Perhaps
it's coming
so.
out in November. I can't help but think that this is related to.
I'm just gonna sit here with it. Y'all talk.
Spew.
I can't help but think that this is related to the fact that Daniel Craig is the most recent iteration of James Bond, and they're looking to evolve James Bond as a character. If you see Daniel Craig as synonymous with that character, it kind of helps to put him in a different role that is flamboyant or, metrosexual appearing.
Do you think that's on purpose?
Yeah, definitely.
That's where my brain always goes, but I also try to check my own bias and say look, I have to read this stuff all day.
It's not
every
about
day.
checking your own bias. It's just about noticing theirs.
It's I try to make sure that I'm not reading so much every day that I'm getting jaded by everything that I read and wonder if I'm entering my own kind of my brain's own echo chamber.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
A male feminist James Bond is
no, that's an
coming
offline.
soon.
You know my take on that. That's the one of the reasons this podcast got started was because of the articles when they were talking about what they were going to do to James Bond in the last one. Luckily, they didn't
You were
end up
like,
doing
this
that.
is the last straw.
I was like, no, he should be having affairs with women, and he should be violent and cold, and he should not be any of these things that you're making him out to be because that's what the character is. That's you do not need to change a character to fit what the current. I'm so sick of the idea of it has to reflect modern day society. Why? Mm-hmm. Why?
Because if it reflects modern values or an updated, modern, reimagined version of it, you're still not speaking to human psychology, which hasn't changed.
And that's the big part. There is we talk a lot about how they want to literally socially engineer you to think differently, but the world doesn't change that quickly.
Michelle Cole's character in Black Panther and all of these female warrior characters in Black Panther and Shuri as Black Panther as the mantle. That doesn't speak to the type of characters women want to see. Women,
right?
I don't think that those type of characters resonate with women.
Is that literally just
they're
for,
even wait, what?
Is that literally for like the women who like we've had like 20 years of women that do actually treat gay men like purse puppies, where they like have their gay friend?
I mean, that's a whole other
super
can of
real.
worms.
Yeah. But I'm saying that's a thing, and I do think that there's a lot of people that have done that in the last 15 to 20 years.
But also, like, if the goal by rewriting characters as gay and implanting gay where it doesn't need to be in film, it's like, if the goal is to increase acceptance of gay people, which is their claim, it's like, it's not working.
Yeah.
Because acceptance rates have been going down steadily since like 2010, and we have more saturation of this shit than ever. So it's like,
did you watch Bros?
No.
That rom-com basically bombed.
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't watch it.
You could argue that when it was more subtle, there was a lot. It did a lot more for all of these communities.
Yeah, because back then, if there's a gay character or a trans character or whatever, it's like people filled in the blanks in the sense of they're like, okay, this is what people are like. I'm sure they're normal people. Now they're just showing everything. It's like that Dylan guy on the Ulta commercial that's going viral.
Yeah.
I said guy, my bad. But it's just too much. And it does the opposite of what it claims to want to do.
It's got to be like emotionally sound. It's got to be a love story. And then the afterthought is the sexuality, in my opinion. Like Brokeback Mountain was, I didn't see it, but it was, about two married guys that were lonely, and then they started having sex with each other, which, so there's the emotion of the marriage and the relationships, but just like doing an action movie and being like, and by the way, he's gay.
Yeah.
Or, and by the way, he's straight. It doesn't really fit.
Interestingly, it's an easy way to not really commit, right? It's like, I don't want to make a whole gay movie because that'll fucking bomb, bros.
Well, yeah. They don't.
So it's like, we're just going
and
to
then
make
they'll
one
blame
of them gay.
homophobia for it bombing in the box office when it's like supposedly aimed at gay men because of representation, right? They want to see that on screen, but men aren't interested in romantic comedies in general, sexual orientation aside.
Yeah.
So basically you're relying on straight white women going to see it and
also
like yassing to it.
In my experience, gay men are like the least romantic people on the planet.
Really?
They're just like very horny.
And that was even inserted into the plot of Bros because they were mentioning like threesomes and like weird raunchy jokes, one of which involved a child. It was just like it was like deviating from the genre of rom-coms like to begin with.
Because I think it's kind of like a very blue-pilled take on like gay culture to assume that they just live like straight people but are gay. It's like, it's just not the case.
It's very 2010s too. To portray that.
We had some guest on IRL, I don't remember who it was, but he was a gay dude, and he was like, dude, I mean, come on. It's about sex. Being gay is about having sex with lots of dudes. Like, that's what we do. And he can't speak for everybody, but he was pretty plaintive about it.
Because you know what it is? I feel like in like straight relationships, it's like women aren't like horny in that way that like gay men are horny, and like men in general. So like men tame themselves to get women. They can't act like, but like it's almost like being gay is like the way they act towards sex is like the true like male behavior.
So there's no way for these movies to market this properly, not without realizing that they have to take a step back and go back to what we were talking about earlier, which is like you need to be more deft in your approach and more and less heavy-handed.
Right.
Otherwise, people will reject it because they feel like, one, they're being preached to, which we've talked time and time again. Yes, they're absolutely preaching at you from their bubble, which they don't understand, that they don't speak for the rest of the country, let alone we talk a lot about how it feels like when Hollywood promotes itself to the world, they're not promoting America, they're promoting Hollywood, which is not the same thing as America, the rest of the country. So how would they be able to pull this back? I would like to ask them the question, like, if they wanted to make the stuff to bring, you said acceptance rates are going down. Yeah. How do they use movies and television once again to get those back up? Would be to go back to just focusing on making good shows and just leave those characters less heavy-handed.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like such a simple sort of like observation to make, but people genuinely don't like stuff shoved down their throats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like some of them do, because you'll make a movie that doesn't portray those like heavy-handed
representation
inserts, and people will fanfic it to death.
Yeah, that's true.
And read into friendships that are completely platonic
and
make them out to be gay.
The deviant art class.
There is a certain faction of people who watch films and then read into them and make them into a narrative that was
Thank
never
you.
intended.
And those are the people that are the loudest because they kind of live in that community and they
That's
project
why
it
J.K.
outward.
Rowling, before all of this like turf nonsense controversy came about, that's why J.K. Rowling was editing in post all of these characters in Harry Potter, like Dumbledore.
Yeah, she made him gay.
She wanted to service that part of her fan base.
Yeah.
Which is weird because like now that
exact
sector
part of her
yeah,
fan base
hates her.
has turned on her.
That's why you don't give them
serves
anything.
her right, honestly.
You don't give them anything.
It's I don't think that there's a way back. I don't think there's a way back for this segment of Hollywood because I don't think that there's enough loss. They every time they lose, they just write it off, and they're good enough with their books that they don't actually feel the burn. Amsterdam, which had no heavy-handed anything like that, just awful marketing, just lost $100 million at the box office. Let's write it off.
Yeah.
Write it off until I guess there could be an argument to be made that with a recession coming, that they might feel that burn and might need to pivot to a more financially beneficial model. But I don't know how you do that without the backlash that comes from their own journalists will end up turning on them if they stop doing that, right?
I mean, in the case of Amsterdam, I think they were just expecting to have a blockbuster hit based on the names that were casted in it, and that's just not enough these days.
It was never going to happen. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.